I'm not so sure they need to be concerned. I think most of the Americans are ready for consent. I think a few Americans will have to be for conquest, and they are aware of that. They know that, and they know the pockets of those people. They know who the people are, and they know how they're going to take them out if they have to take them out. We'll see when that day comes exactly what happens. We'll see what happens. Many of these men hold their guns up and they say, nobody's ever going to take it away to me. I would guess some of those men will probably be first in line to turn their weapons in when you either get a 10-year jail sentence or you get a $10,000 fine. It's just always the case of people that their talk is cheap. We'll find out exactly who turns the weapons in when that day comes. I would recommend, again, everybody to have some kind of sawed-off shotgun to protect their family in case of anarchy. But I wouldn't recommend using that sawed-off shotgun against a Stinger missile. I don't know what. I guess that slide, I'm sorry, it didn't come down. We'll look at it later. It had to do with the rapid response teams that Janet Reno wanted these rapid response teams in case there was a fire or a smoke started in some area. They'd bring the team in and they'd put the fire out before it ever started going. Well, she got her way. She said this act may be cited as the Rapid Deployment Strike Force. That's HR 97. So now they have these these teams that come in case there's a problem with a militia group in Indiana, for example. They'd bring these guys in, these I keep using that word, these mercenaries, foreign troops, and a combination like they did at Randy Weaver and some of those. They combined everybody, the federal police, the state police, the hurt teams, everybody, and they went in and did what they had to do. Killed some lady, shot her through the forehead while she was holding her 10-month-old daughter. Reno announced the creation of a federal strike force, and you can see the smile on her face as she finally got what she wanted. Many of you people heard about these black helicopters. I didn't really see one and I still haven't seen one, but this was interesting. Somebody said they had at one of these urban exercises in Philadelphia. So I called the Philadelphia Observer. I said, have you guys had exercises back there? He said, yes. Haven't you heard about them? We've had them 3 nights on the evening news, ABC, NBC, CBS. Says, no, we haven't heard anything about them. I said, would you mind sending me in some articles about what happened back there in Philadelphia? So here's a close-up of one of them. His name was Michael. He says, I do not for one moment believe that last week's Army training exercise was in any way routine, except to the extent that some sort of exercise have been taking place in cities throughout the United States for a month, Chicago, Atlanta, and other cities. What bothers me, however, is that local police and civilian officials accept these exercises at face value, cooperating fully with the military request and even participate in the exercise without any plans in place to deal with the unlikely event that the exercises are part of an unconstitutional military operation. Everything we once thought impossible is now possible here. That's what was in this article. They did have exercises for 3 days with things called black helicopters, per our own news media out of Philadelphia. They've had them in other cities. Why black? I don't know. It's a good color for undercover. It's just you got the forces of light and darkness. I got to believe that's somewhere tied in. Anyway, these strike forces are broken down into really 10 regions. She's got 10 areas where if that smoke that I talked about earlier starts in one region, she can bring that strike force in under the FEMA director. That's Federal Emergency Management Group. President Clinton, who made really his disaster his number one priority, they're supposed to be helping us in case of emergencies. Well, he elevated James Witt as his cabinet secretary, so now there's a FEMA director on the cabinet that talks to him directly. Then this James Witt goes out and speaks to the 10 different regions where he has his directors in those regions. If you don't believe there's 10 regions, it's easier to control people with 10 regions as it is 50 states. If you don't believe there's 10 regions, go to your post office and look for the 10 mailing regions. If you still don't believe, go to your library and look at the 10. Take your regional phone book and you'll find out there's 10 regions in your phone book. So they already have the shadow government. They already have the 10 regions so they can control us. They already have, here's a badge. It's called the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the United States Police Force. So they're already federalized police. We'll get into that in just a few minutes. Here's one of the federalized police. It doesn't look like a peacekeeper to me. There's tremendous firepower there. He's a BATF agent. Here's under the crime control, the Violent Crime Control Bill of 1994. You can see here that they were going to bring in, they brought in 1,000 Hong Kong police. Who are the Hong Kong police? Well, they're called Gurkhas. Gurkhas are well-trained murderers. They're trained in India. They grow up out in the wild. They're some of the best killers that money could hire. And when asked, the person the congressman that initiated this bill, he said, well, that was just a joke. See, they say these crazy things like that was just a joke. They say things like the paint. We had to bring the military vehicles over to paint them, and we just take those as answers, and it doesn't go any further than that. Because we really don't have the press. This is why I'm doing this in front of this group, and I'll go any place, any time to speak, that they give me the opportunity to open the doors, and I'll do that because I want as many people as possible to know about what's happening so they can fall to their knees. Now, why did I say fall to their knees? Hezekiah knew what it was all about, or Habakkuk, Habakkuk said, how long are you going to put up with this stiff-necked people that can allow to murder their own babies? How long are you going to stand for this, God? And God says, if I told you, Habakkuk, you wouldn't believe me, so don't ask me. He says, try me. So God says, okay, I'm bringing the Babylonian army, and I'm going to destroy Judah, your people. And Habakkuk fell to his knees at that point and cried out to God. He says, why would you bring these ungodly people? Why would you bring these ungodly people in if they're ungodly and you're going to destroy your own people? Well, the answer is that we've been given much, so there should be much expected. Here's the 10 regions, the FEMA emergency management regions that I talked about earlier. Here's the KICS box I mentioned that my wife was teaching our kids geography in, Heartland. Remember, that's in Nebraska there. So that fits right in with that movie. One's a KICS box, one's an ABC special. Both of them have the same thing in mind, just to show the people exactly what's happening. Here's a LA Times article, the disunited states, again, regionalizing our country instead of by the states. They're talking about there's going to even be broken down into smaller regions. Here, the last thing Hitler did before he took over power was he consolidated by his rise to power. What are we doing? We passed the marijuana laws out in California. Now they're saying the U.S. is considered deputizing police. Well, they're going to do more than deputize police. They're going to federalize police. How are they going to do it? They're going to give them grants. They're going to give them money so they can use this money. Here's some of the police force right here. This is in Santa Ana. That looks a lot like the military unit to me. It's one of the SWAT teams. What happens? You bring drugs in, you bring guns in, you have a problem, so you pass laws, and the police say, hey, we need more firepower, so they're glad to get the federal government's firepower, uniforms, money, everything, and as they get that, then the federal government says, okay, now you have to do it our way. And that's exactly what these grants are all about. They did it at the fire departments, they're doing it in the police department, they're doing it all throughout our country. They don't have to, these SWAT teams and people don't have to ask and knock on the doorbell and see if somebody's home under H.R. 666. We got away with the Fourth Amendment. They can break in any door they want to now, and they don't have to have a search warrant. That's on the law, so we're having these freedoms taken away from us as we're asleep. Here's some of the SWAT teams. They want to bring in guns and these gang members. That doesn't look a whole lot like a peacekeeping black and white policeman as you would know him, at least on that screen. What they wanted here is these checkpoints. It says a bill that would let police stop and search cars in designated dangerous neighborhoods. That's the same as they have alcohol checkpoints. They're going to want to do the same thing. Well, let me tell you what, they passed that law September 30th, 1996. You can see thousands of police and military troops may be U.S. law violators because they have domestic disputes with their wife. So they can take the guns away now from some of our police officers and from some of our military people. Here they took away from 3 of the policemen there out of the Rocky Mountain area, Denver area. They can arrest them. Believe me, everything that Hitler did, when the Nazis came before him, they said, we did everything under the color of law. We did everything we were told to do. Everything they do when they take your family away from you, they'll be able to do it under the color of law. They have passed all the laws the Nazis have and then some. In fact, in 1935, we'll go down in history as the first time, and this is by Adolf Hitler, by the way, we'll go down the first time as a civilized nation, 1935 will go down in history for the first time. A civilized nation has full gun registration. Our streets will be safer, our police more efficient, and the world will follow our lead into the future. We're following the lead in the future, but I hope you saw when President Clinton, in his latest inaugural speech, he said, we are going to have a new government. We're going to be more efficient, more effective. You see, he's more efficient. What they did is they combined these different units, and one man would take charge. They did it in Russia, too, under Molotov in 1923 to 1996, 1923 to 1926. Same thing. They combined the power. They centralized the power.